Hey, I'm back!
Well, better late than never.
So, Christmas, New Year, holidays, parties, birthdays. But I'm back, folks. Back for 2019. Hopefully. Anyway, let's get started. Welcome to the wonderful world of dodgy movies and TV. I'm your host, Movie and TV Mistress. Welcome to the wonderful world of dodgy movies and TV. Sorry, must be a glitch in the Matrix. Possibly 0.1, which was Toyland. Anyway, so this week I'm doing Babes in Toyland, a 1986 film starring Drew Barrymore and a young Keanu Reeves. Yes, Keanu Reeves, before Bill and Ted. He's playing a character called Jack. Jack be nimble, Jack be quick. Not John Wick. Sadly, if it was John Wick and they'd killed his puppy, he would have kicked this guy's ass. But I digress. So, what is Babes in Toyland? Well, it's supposed to be, and it is kind of inspired by the Victor Herbert and Glenn McDonough operetta. So in the operetta, it's about two kids going to Toyland, having to defeat some bad guys and saving the day. This is slightly inspired by it, but it is more like A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court and The Wizard of Oz. We have Drew Barrymore, who is called Lisa Piper. A lot of the names are going to have references to fairy tales and nursery rhymes. But then again, they're in Toyland, and the operetta also did that, so I can forgive it. So she's Lisa Piper, she's an 11-year-old. Drew Barrymore is 11 when this movie was made, and so stoned. She was, at this point, very well known for getting into the drinks and possibly the start of the drug use. So I will forgive her for being in this weird film. Keanu Reeves, he was starting out. Richard Mulligan, I think he's drunk. And as for Ellen Brennan, I think she's drunk too. Starts off in present day, 1986, Christmas time. Hence it's a Christmas movie and I watched this over Christmas. Lisa is home alone. Well, she's with her sister Mary, who's about to go off to work. Her mum's out with one of the other kids. And Lisa has to take care of all the kids. Because it's like Labyrinth and Cinderella. The fact that her name is Lisa Piper, the rest of the movie, you won't remember that name because the rest of the time she's referred to as Cincinnati because that's where this film is supposed to be set and where she's supposed to be from.
You really like the sled. I mean, you weren't just putting on an act back in the store, were you?
No, this is going to be the best Christmas in the history of the world.
Right here in Cincinnati.
Welcome to glorious Cincinnati, Queen of Ohio's Alpine Ski Resorts. I come from
C-I-N-C-I-N-N-A-T-I, Cincinnati,
the best town in
Ohio, USA.
At first they called it Cincy, but since Cincy is so natty, they named it Cincinnati, so they say.
Hey, now the girls are pretty in this gritty little city.
The fellers are the feistiest I've seen.
And when it comes to ball teams, the Reds and the Bengals small teams.
They knock the socks off ball teams on the grid.
I mean, true heart is indefensible. The backs are common sensible. This is invincible. Yeah, know what I mean.
Cincy's more than merely natty.
She's Ohio's Maserati.
Cincinnati's at the center of the scene. I mean, true art is indefensible.
Drew Barrymore gets knocked out and ends up waking up in Toyland. This is an acid trip of a dream sequence I've ever seen in a movie. If you thought that the going from black and white to bright colour of Wizard of Oz was weird, or that Return to Oz was even weirder and more disturbing, this is kind of between Never-Ending Story weird and I feel like somebody's just done some serious drug taking during the making of the costumes and the design of the background.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. Excuse me, I'm very sorry. I'm sorry. Oh, excuse me. Here, let me help you up.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Are you hurt?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, that's good. I'm Georgie Porgy, chief taster at the Toyland Cookie Factory.
Oh, look! It's Humpty Dumpty.
Oh, I know. Don't talk to him. He never stops chattering. He'll keep you there all day long. Hi, Humpty.
Always a thrill to pass the time of day with you, Georgie.
So, we are introduced to Toyland. There is the boot from the woman who lived in a shoe, but the woman who lived in the shoe had too many kids, moved out, and is now living in a pair of boots. And Miss Hubbard, who had nothing in her cupboard, who is the mum, Ellen Brennan, now lives in the shoe of all her kids, including Mary Quite Contrary, who she's trying to marry off to Bonnie Barnacle is Richard Mulligan. Now, if you don't know who Richard Mulligan was, because sadly he's no longer with us, he was quite big in the late 70s and early 80s for some sitcoms. The most famous sitcom, of course, being Soap.
In the last episode of Soap, Chester told Jessica he fools around with other women because he's sick and needs help. Mary convinced Jody to move back home, and that way he could get help with the baby. Danny met a girl named Polly at the cemetery who might help him get over Elaine. And Bert, who has trouble sleeping, went to the doctor for a physical, hoping that might help. Confused? You won't be after this episode of Soap.
Soap, a sitcom that spoofed, as we would now call them, memes of all the soap opera stories. Back then it was just spoofing soaps. So he got abducted by aliens, there was witchcraft, there was twins, doppelgangers, and Billy Crystal was in that show as a pre-op transsexual who then becomes straight and decides not to go through with it. Because, you know. And at the beginning of every episode it always said, confused? You won't be after this episode of Soap. Of course, you were always confused, even when you watched a soap, let alone Soap. It's at this point when we get to Toyland and we're introduced to all the characters, and we're introduced to Barney Barnacle and his house, which is a giant black bowling ball, I might add, that I suddenly remembered, oh wait, I saw this when I was a kid. Yes, I saw this as a kid. I have very little memory of it, but I remembered the bowling ball house, because, you know, that sticks in your memory more than a shoe. His house is kind of like a TARDIS, in that it looks like a bowling ball, but inside it's massive and dark. Also, another thing that's really odd about this place, paperwork, such as driver's licenses. Oh, and cash, by the way. People are paid in cookies. Georgie Porgy eats cookies, won't stop eating them, so how the hell does he pay his rent when all he does is eat cookies? And how the hell does he drive a car with a cookie driver's license when all he does is eat the cookies? Okay, so that's my little rant over paperwork in this world. I know. Technically, by the end of the movie, you're left to believe that it was all a dream and that, you know, it's a kid's fevered dream. Or is it? There's a whole plot about Barney Barnacle wanting all the evil that's been gathered by the toy maker and wants to take over the world. The toy maker is played by Pat Morita, by the way. You know, wax on, wax off. Or, you know, he was Al in Happy Days, I think. Anyway, so Pat Morita is the toy maker, and he's trying to help Cincinnati, or Lisa Piper, and Mary, and Georgie Porgy, and Jack Be Nimble, Jack Be Quick, defeat Barnaby Barnacle so that Mary doesn't have to marry him, and that make sure that Barnaby doesn't take over the world with the pure evil that is in a jar that's just in his cupboard, because the toy maker is so bad at hiding things. So things happen, Barnaby's defeated, they get out, but then it's Christmas time and Santa needs to deliver all the toys. Turns out the toy maker, spoilers here everyone, the toy maker is Santa Claus. Pat Morita is Santa. Before Kurt Russell, well, just before anybody sort of goes, oh look, there's no ethnicities in this film. Yeah, Pat Morita's Asian and he's Santa, because that makes sense. So they go off and deliver the toys, and then she gets home, and what's under her tree but a toy soldier that helped save the day and winks at her. So was it a dream or wasn't it? Who knows? It's a kids film. It was made for TV. It was made for NBC. The director of this film was Clive Donner. No relation to Richard Donner. He's an English director. He's actually quite well known for the films that he directed before and after this film. Prior to this, he'd done... so he did a film called What's New Pussycat? He did a film called The Thief of Baghdad. He did a film called A Christmas Carol with George C. Scott and Edward Woodward and David Warner as Bob Cratchit, which I remember growing up watching, and it's a very good adaptation actually. I really enjoyed that one. And then he also did Oliver Twist with George C. Scott after this. So he's not a bad director. He's actually directed some classics there, and then just randomly TV movie for NBC about Babes in Toyland. The acting isn't bad. Drew Barrymore keeps it together, though I feel like there are times when she's just not quite with it. I also feel that about Richard Mulligan, as I said. It might just be that he's such a good actor that he looks like he could be drunk, but it's difficult to say. I'm not saying anyone was stoned or drunk during this. I just think that drugs might have been helpful in making this film. The other thing that happened when I chose to watch this movie, I chose to watch this because I discovered it on Netflix. Okay, Netflix, really enjoying that you're adding some random stuff, a bit like Amazon adds really random stuff. So I'd seen the image and I was like, oh, okay, I'll check that out. Keanu Reeves, Drew Barrymore, interesting. So I'm like, okay, I'll check that out. And then there's a day I decide to finally sit down and watch this movie, and I'm pressing play, and I press play, and this is what comes up on my screen.
When you've grown up, my dears, and are as old as I, you'll often ponder on the years that roll so swiftly by, my dears, that roll so swiftly by. And of the many lands you will have journeyed through, you'll oft recall the best of all, the land your childhood knew.
The first 30 seconds of what I've just watched was the most disturbing thing I've ever seen. It claimed it was Babes in Toyland. So I went, okay, maybe the film starts off with an animation sequence? Okay, I'll continue. But then I realised, no, this is full-on animation. It's by Don Bluth's brother. But I was disturbed and I stopped and I went, okay, that's odd. It was definitely Drew Barrymore. It definitely said had Drew Barrymore in it. Okay, so I go back into Netflix and I search Babes in Toyland. And then I get the identical image twice beside each other. One that says Babes in Toyland 1986 and one that says Babes in Toyland 1997. And then I realised that the one I want is the 1986 one, of course, but the 1997 one was the one I just watched for like 5 minutes and was disturbed. Who knew Babes in Toyland could be disturbing? And I know that I've said the title a few times, and I'm sure there is probably a porno out there that has that title because it's such a porno title anyway. But this was actually a sweet film. It was a sweet Christmas movie aimed at kids. It was very fun, and hey, I'd drive the cars that the kids are driving in it. I'd probably eat the cookies too, like Georgie, but if you're gonna have paperwork, you need paper, not cookies. That makes no sense. And also, she doesn't even do a driving test. She just goes, you need a driver's license. Here's a cookie shaped like a car. That makes sense in kid world, I guess, which I guess we're in Toyland. If you like really random films like I do, which I assume you do since you're watching my video, why not give it a try? It's a silly film, it's less than an hour and a half long, and it's on Netflix, so it's free. If you're paying a subscription, technically you've paid for it, but you know what I mean. So, next week I will be reviewing something more bizarre. I haven't decided what yet, but it'll definitely be more bizarre. That's the aim. More bizarre. This year, I'm going to go bizarre on your minds. Yes. So, tune in next week, folks, and I will be doing this weekly, so don't worry. It will be every week from now on. It was just I needed a break. Ugh, Christmas. Traveling. Families. You need a break. But thanks for watching. Remember, hit that subscribe button there. I'm pointing at Howard because he will hold and push out the subscribe button for me, I'm sure. Comment down below. Hit that bell over there. And remember what I always say, folks. There's a lot of dodgy movies out there. And I watch most of them.